We want to address the auto worker strike. Don't worry, we got a full show for you today. Let's talk about the auto worker strike. When they first started negotiating, and you guys seen me have this conversation, and it wasn't popular to report on, and nobody was reporting on it except for me and the news and whatever it is, the local news that was happening, right? And I told you, I said, listen, I can tell the sentiment of the people that are negotiating this deal. It is going to be different from any other year. It's going to be different from any other year. And so for all of my auto workers, I hope you are informed. I hope that you know what you're doing. I hope you got your money saved up and you're ready to get on that picket line so you can get your checks every week or every 2 weeks or whenever it is that they send out them checks. I hope you're ready. Gird up. Ladies, get close to your husband. This is not the time to leave your husband. If you're working in a plant and you got a man and you think that you can talk any old kind of way to him, you're going to need him. You're going to need that man to hold you up and to hold you down. It's a lot of people that found their spouse on the workplace, in the workplace and on the floor. A lot of people found their spouse and a person. Some of y'all not even married, but it's cool. You shacking up. I get it. It's 2023. You don't believe in the Bible. Some of you are shacking up with women that you found on the workplace floor. I remember when I was in a plant, it always used to be supervisors busting down the chicks that was on the floor. I don't know why. I always said don't mix business with pleasure. It always turned into a combustible situation. They always was giving that chick extra paychecks and extra time, even though she wasn't even on the job. I couldn't hate. I never said nothing about it. But it made for a difficult situation because the supervisor always wound up getting in trouble because he was busting a chick down that was on the floor. And then he would bust another chick down, and then she would find out about the other one. Next thing you know, he going into human resources, and it was just a bad situation. But a lot of people have plant wives, right? And so y'all becoming interdependent on each other. And so y'all don't really have no money in order to pay your bills the same way because your lifestyle elevated, your money elevated. And so you aligned your lifestyle with the money that you was making, and both of y'all on strike now. So now I'm praying for you. I went before God today and I said, Lord, let me bring my auto workers to your footsteps. Actually, I was praying to Jesus, right? Because I had to go through Jesus in order to you know what I'm saying? I had to talk to Jesus because Jesus is going to petition God on my behalf. I said, Jesus, you called me your friend. This is your humble servant, Anton from AntonDaniels.com. Let me go ahead and pray for my fellow auto workers because they know not what they do. They over here and doing their thing. They decided to strike when we had the most lucrative time to really put the city on a map, and we got the North American International Auto Show, and Tesla and Elon Musk is watching these people and he's saying, okay, cool. Yeah. Elon Musk said Tesla gonna win this because we're largely not unionized, and we gonna send the UAW to play basketball in Pelican Bay. I'm gonna give you my thoughts, but let me go ahead and bring you up to speed of what's going on.
Breaking news overnight. Members of the United Auto Workers Union have gone on strike in the United States. They've shut down this morning 3 major plants, one from each of the Detroit threes. It's known as that strike deadline passed at midnight Eastern. This is the very first time the union has taken job action against the big 3 Detroit automakers at the very same time.
Solidarity forever for the union makes us strong. Hell yeah!
So there was the scene a few hours ago outside a Ford assembly plant in Wayne, Michigan. That's just outside Detroit. About 1,300 UAW members are on strike at these 3 locations. There's a Stellantis in Toledo, Ohio, and a GM site in Missouri as well. The UAW president, Shawn Fain, showed up at the picket line in Michigan just after midnight.
Record profits equal record contracts. It's our time, and all we want is our share of equity. We're not asking to be millionaires. We're not asking to join the billionaire class. We're asking for our fair share of the fruits of our labor. They deserve it.
So the 3 locations on strike today, this is just a limited strike. It makes up just a fraction of the broad UAW membership. Other locations are working under an expired agreement for now, but the strike could expand nationwide. There we're looking at the plants. Let's just bring you in some live pictures. Just before we joined Steve Futterman, we were looking at Wayne, Michigan, just outside Detroit. That's the Ford plant. And of the limited number of strikers today, 3,300 are out walking the picket line at this particular Ford plant in Wayne, Michigan. Steve Futterman in front of a Ford facility in Los Angeles. So, Steve, on the breaking news this morning, give us more detail.
Yes.
The contract demands on the part of the union, what is the UAW asking for? It helps us understand why this is so unprecedented.
Well, that's right, Heather. As you mentioned, normally the striking is aimed towards one of the big 3. Normally the UAW targets one of the big 3, and that's where the walkout, the strike is aimed at. But this time, all 3 are being affected. But as you mentioned, not everyone's walking out. There's more than 140,000 UAW workers in the U.S. This is affecting, as you mentioned, at those 3 locations in Ohio, Michigan, and Missouri, around 13,000. So this is a strategy they're taking right now. As you mentioned, lots of issues being discussed here. The big one, of course, not surprisingly, money. The union wants an increase of 36% over the next 4 years, while the big 3 are offering around 20%. So if the 2 sides reach an agreement, you would expect one side to go up, one side to come down, some meeting in the middle there. But for the moment, that's the big issue. Also, electronic vehicles. The auto industry is moving, as we know, away from the traditional internal combustion vehicles towards electronic vehicles. That could displace many of these union workers. They want some protection. So those are really the 2 big issues right now. Many people wondering, what are the workers saying? Here's what we found from a few of them who do support the strike.
I think the UAW will take care of me, and I hope the company will too.
People have been underpaid for a while. Benefits have been crazy, so this is definitely something that's going to help everyone.
We deserve our raise. We deserve I think everybody out here does. We come to work every day, we work hard, we make sure quality is right.
So let me ask y'all a question, right? She said, we come to work every day, we work hard, and our quality is right. So let me preface this conversation by saying that I hope they get whatever it is that they negotiate. You get what you negotiate, not necessarily what you think that you deserve. You get what you negotiate, not necessarily what you think that you deserve. All right? So let me give you my perspective before we really start to deep dive into this show. A, go get your bag. B, these demands are crazy. In my professional opinion, I believe that these demands are crazy. Not the fact that you may want a 36% raise. It was 46% when I first started studying. I'm not going to let y'all finesse me and tell me that the numbers is off. No, it was 46% at first. Now they're saying 36%. Cool. I'm not tripping at the fact that you want a 36% raise across the board for all 140,000 workers. Get your bag. Get your bag. But here's the other part of the conversation that we're not having a discussion about. 32-hour work week. Why they not highlighting that and putting that at the front of the con? Where in the world, where in the United States of America, where in your state are they having a 32-hour work week and you think that that also justifies a 36% pay raise? Let me reiterate this again. Where in the world do you get a 32-hour work week and you can justify it with a 36% pay raise? That's A. B, you do not get credit for doing your job right and doing it correctly. Let me say it one more time. You should not, that's like me getting credit for being a father. You're supposed to have good quality. Don't you want your company to still stay in business? Don't you want to have a job tomorrow? Ain't that what they hired you to do, to actually do your job correctly and not have messed up work? Not have recalls every single day? Like, I don't believe that you should get rewarded for doing what you was hired to do in the first place. You don't even want to work 40 hours. You want a 36% raise. Cool. Get your bag. Go and get your money. And then another thing that they address in this particular video, EVs. They want to guarantee that they have work going forward in the future. So they're not necessarily trying to align with the vision of the company, because I'm going to just be honest with you. EVs are changing the game. One of the reasons why automakers are pushing so hard, because you only look at it from a worker's perspective, you don't actually look at it holistically. One of the reasons why EVs are being pushed so hard is that even though battery technology, it takes a lot for research and development on the front end, on the back end, as they continue to scale and as they continue to improve battery technology, what happens is it becomes cheaper to produce. Also, significantly less parts. Now that you don't have to worry about quality as far as internal combustion engines, and you're literally having less than thousands of less parts having to be put together, which means that you need less workers, less manufacturing, less facilities, more sharing amongst other automakers and technology, which means that there's less availability for workers or less need for workers to have to do the same work that they was doing before. I just read yesterday, and I was looking at Apple News. They have now developed battery technology, and they've just broken a world record in which they were able to go over 1,300 miles on one charge for an electric car. 1,300 miles over one charge for an electric car. And they want to become less dependent, which would create less volatility for world's oil, and no longer have to be subjected to what's going on in other countries such as Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different moving parts that's playing a role in this. And again, I am in support of the union going out and getting a bag. I'm just going to break it down from you honestly, from an objective perspective, to help you to understand how you need to do things a little bit differently. Stop depending on them to work there for the next 30 years. If it happens, dope. I'm going to be reading those super chats shortly. Thank you, Jacquel, for continuing to support the platform. If it happens, cool. If it happens, cool. Listen, every single day, Chinese automakers, Tesla, Volkswagen over there in Germany, who owns Lamborghini, Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche. Porsche is probably going to break off and become its own company, and that they issue or take it to an IPO in order to continue to raise money. Every single day, competition is ramping up. More, harder, stronger. And then you got the Japanese automakers, and they doing their thing with Honda. The Korean automakers over there with Hyundai and Kia, they over there kicking butt. This is a worldwide game. And so nobody can guarantee you anything, but one thing that they can do is give you the bag. But then if you add value into the company, it's no way that they can walk away from what it is that you do. So I am in agreement that they should be seeking a bigger bag, but I'm also in disagreement that they don't really understand that you're in a global game. That you are in a global game. The only way that manufacturing is going to come back to the U.S. is if they make it technologically available to where they have less workers to do more things in which they can then pay more money, because it has to make sense from a business perspective. It has to make sense from a business perspective. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't like electric cars. Listen, it's coming. It's already here. It is happening. The less that you embrace technology, the more that you're going to become a dinosaur, and you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in talking about, I don't like what's going on. It is already happening. I seen the pivot away from manufacturing over into technology a long time ago, which is one of the reasons why I made the adjustment in my own career path. Because I said, I am going to dress for the job that I want, not the job that I have. I am going to dress for the job that I want, not the job. I'm not going to be dependent. I tell people on coaching calls all the time, I am not defined by my job. When people walk up to you every day, right? And they say, hey, what's going on? Who is this? And one of the things that people like to do is say, this is such and such. And what do you do for a living? That's one of the first things that they ask you. When you want a date, in order to try to, it's the same thing as trying to find out a woman's body count. You don't ask her directly, but you just ask her indirectly, and then you try to mine out and source the information that you need in order to make informed decisions, right? So if you're on a date with a person and you say, hey, what do you do? and they say, oh, okay, I'm the VP of manufacturing over at Ford Motor Company, then that means that you get to the bag. You know what I'm saying? So they don't have to ask you how much you make. You don't have to ask her what her body count is. You ask her questions that then better understand exactly who she is to make an informed decision as to whether or not a lot of people is busting her down. You pay attention to all of the other things that's going on around the conversation. And so I don't want you guys to then be defined by your role. Hey, what's going on? What do you do? Oh, I work for Ford Motor Company and such and such and such. I work for GM and I work at the Chrysler Assembly Plant over at Stellantis or whatever. You're not defined by your job. You should be more than that. The job is a way for you to then get the shovel to then be able to develop the assets to live the life that you want. I don't want you guys, I want you to get your raise, but I don't want you to be interdependent on the automakers in order for you to continue to rock out for the rest of your life. Lucid, Rivian, over there in Plymouth, it's a lot of places that's changing the game. It's a limit to the amount of technology or how far you can take these internal combustion engines. It's already changing. It's evolving. These automakers don't even look at themselves as automakers anymore. They call themselves technology companies.
And Heather, one thing that the union is pointing out is that the big three have been making bundles of money, billions of dollars in profits each year. They say they want their share of the pie. They deserve it.
So I'm thinking of people looking to buy a new vehicle. What kind of stockpiles do the big three have, Steve? What happens if this strike drags on?
Well, that's the big issue. If it drags on, for the moment, people are going to be fine. There is enough of a stock at most vehicle dealerships for people to buy cars if they want it. But if this strike goes on week after week after week, which is always possible, we've seen very long strikes with the UAW historically. Well, after a few weeks, you could start seeing the inventory decrease. You could see the price of new cars go up, and that would also probably affect used cars. Another ancillary issue, what will it be for like restaurants that are in the areas where these auto plants are, other stores? Well, they will be affected as well. So this could be very, very tough nut to crack for people who work in the areas. And of course, finally, the dealers get their parts from various industries across the U.S. The people who supply the parts to the big three, they will be impacted as well.
Let me give you the perspective of CEOs. So we already heard the Ford CEO yesterday, right? Jim Farley. And now I want to give you Mary Barra, right? Mary Barra is the CEO of General Motors. She has been leading the company and she has been doing so successfully. I have to give her credit. And so this actually speaks to the fact that women are capable of being able to lead a company. I just wouldn't suggest so because it comes with a lot of other headaches that come along with it as far as a relationship. So be very careful about talking to those type of women. However, that's not what we're talking about right now. I want to get her perspective. Now we've got the UAW members' perspective, and I want to get Mary Barra's perspective.
Live pictures of auto workers who have walked off the job at 3 assembly plants overnight after the UAW and Detroit automakers could not agree on a new contract. 12,000 workers on strike against the big three. That's Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, makers of Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep. The union wants better benefits and higher pay in line with CEO pay raises in recent years. And Chris Van Cleve is in Detroit with one of those CEOs, General Motors CEO Mary Barra. Chris, over to you.
Tony, good morning. We want to get right to Mary. Mary, thank you for being with us here on CBS Mornings. Having your plant in Missouri offline, 4,000 workers or so on strike, what does that do for General Motors' ability to keep production lines moving?
Well, you know, at Wentzville, the line's not moving, and we build three very important products there. Just launched the Chevrolet Colorado and the GMC Canyon. These are mid-sized trucks that are in very, very strong demand. They're great vehicles, as well as our cargo van that's been in strong demand for over a decade. So this is going to have an impact, especially when you look at the demand of these vehicles. We have some in the field, and we're going to continue to work to meet customer needs, but this has an impact. In addition, some of our plants, even assembly plants, have what we call contiguous stamping plants next to them that might service other plants. So this is going to have an impact probably beyond just Wentzville.
So what she's basically saying is that the targeted strikes, which can expand over into different plants and different products, it's a trickle-down effect. Even the stamping plants that they have in those particular facilities also service other plants. And then they also targeted large workforces and facilities that also produce a product that is in high demand, which ultimately can affect the bottom line of the company. And so they're being they're targeting all three companies all at the same time, which is historic and which is something that does not happen, has not happened according to what it is that's being reported by the news. But they're targeting specific plants in order to make an impact so that they can hopefully come to the negotiating table and meet that demand of that 32-hour work week, that 36% pay raise, those benefits, the two-tier system elimination, so on and so forth, right? And so she's basically breaking down, very well, might I add, she's basically breaking down how this thing is starting to impact and why they're targeting these specific plants, because they're trying to hit them where it hurts without completely crippling the company, because a crippled company is then no good for the workers, right?
And I think one of the things that people have heard the union say is that if there was a strike, it was because automakers didn't come to the table with a good enough deal. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, we've been at the table since July 18th. We received over 1,000 demands, and I'm proud of both bargaining teams that they've been working through all of those demands. We put 4 offers on the table. Each one we iterated after listening, because part of negotiation is problem solving. Understand the challenge and find a solution that works for everyone. I'm very proud of the offer that we put on the table last night or yesterday, because it's a record from a gross wage increase perspective in our 115-year history, as well as maintaining strong health care, world-class health care that our employees enjoy. And I think one thing that's very important is from a job security perspective. In this contract, we have product and work for every single one of our plants. And that didn't happen by accident. It happened because a few years back, as we started to plan for this historic transformation from internal combustion vehicles to EVs, that we would have work for all of our people, because we wanted them to come along with us on this journey. It's one of the reasons why we developed power units internally, so they could be built at the plants where today an internal combustion engine is built. So we've been working on this very hard. So, we have a historic offer on the table. We think we're at the table now, ready to keep going and get this resolved as quickly as possible.
She's a very, very intelligent CEO, and you can tell that this is the difference between somebody that's just a worker and a person that actually understands business. Think about what she just said, okay? She said that, listen, we understand that jobs are going away and we're going to need less people to do some of the same amount of things that we do here in the United States of America, and so we made an informed decision. First and foremost, we've been at the table since July 18th. We didn't just come to the table. So the things that they're demanding of us, it's a little bit disingenuous, because they're trying to act like this is the last minute historic deal that we need to get done. We've been talking to them for months, okay? She also said it's not just 4 or 5 different issues. They put on the table a list of over 1,000 demands. They put on the table a list of over 1,000 demands. Now, here's the key. And this is one of the things that I want to hit upon. List of over 1,000 demands, right? Why are the union members only informed of the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 main issues? And why are they only informing them and giving them education as to those issues are the biggest thing? Oh, they not meeting our 46% pay raise. Oh, they didn't hear us on a 32-hour work week. They gave over 1,000 demands. And this is not to just GM. This is to every automaker, right? And so as they then start to come to the negotiating table, there's more than just those 4 or 5 different things that's being communicated about, but these are the things that, and this is what you call propaganda. This is what you call advertisement. This is the same thing that happens during election seasons, right? They have these proposals. They have the Build Back Better plan. They have Biden's infrastructure deal, in which they pushed hundreds of different things inside of those little things that Congress members and Senate was wrangling over behind the scenes, but the thing that they presented to the people was only 4 or 5 different main points for you to argue over, right? 4 or 5 different main points. I wonder how many UAW members, and this is not to get at them, this is just to have a conversation. I wonder how many UAW members are actually familiar with what all those 1,000 demands are. What pamphlets, what sign, and how well do they communicate with their members to absolutely understand exactly what they're asking for, so they can make a more informed decision when they vote on whatever the historical contract that they're then advertising to their members. Just curious. Think about what she also said, and this is why understanding is key. right? Because you only want to hear it from one side and you don't hear it from both sides. Again, I want you to get your money, but I want you to understand what's being communicated at the table on your behalf, right? So think about this, right? She said, listen, we know that it takes less to build and it can be much more profitable when it comes to moving over into EVs away from internal combustion engines. That's happening. It's not something to debate. In order for us to stay competitive, we got to do it. We have to do it, right? She knows this. And so what they did was, instead of how they usually do things, which is historically outsourced different things and then they decided to bring all of that in-house. She said, we're not going to outsource a lot of the different things that we do because what happens is we'll need less demand from the people that's already in our fold. And that would mean more layoffs, natural attrition. It would need less workers. But we want to bring manufacturing back into our own plant and our own state. So what we did was we developed it and we bring it in-house and we go manufacture it ourselves, which is also going to take training. It's also going to take a new skill set. It's also going to take more reinvestment into the people so that they're able to maintain these jobs. And so what they're doing is they're developing it in-house in order to bring work back to Americans and back here. And that takes money. It takes money in training and research and development. It costs money in order to get approved over into, the different regulatory bodies over in every single 50 states. And a lot of people are not familiar with all of this investment and all of the billions of dollars you have to allocate in order to do so, right? And so she's basically educating you. She's giving you the game. Whether she's right or wrong, that's up for you to determine. But she's giving you the game on why they're doing things the way that they're doing it and what it's going to cost them and why they're making the offers that they're making. Okay? I might be educating y'all a little bit more than what your union reps is doing.
Your offer was about a 20% pay raise in addition to what you were just talking about there. The union's been asking for up to a 40% pay raise. They want a 4-day work week, return of pensions, among other things. Why not just give them what they're asking for?
Because one of the most important things in my responsibility that I take very seriously.
Listen, hold on. Let me back this up. 40% pay raise.
Just give them what they're asking.
Up to a 40% pay raise. See, they want to throw that number 36%. No, they want 46%. Shorter work week and return of pensions. You can forget it. Returning of pensions is over. Pensions are one of the things that killed automakers back in the 2000s as to why they had to file for bankruptcy in the first place. Gosh, I hate to be going through this, but this is the Millionaire Morning Show. Returns of pensions. You know why they want to return the pensions? Because they then gave the UAW the ability to be able to manage their own workers' monies, but they want to saddle that back on the company because the UAW can't do it effectively. That's the truth. Pensions are a thing of yesteryear. That's what they replaced 401ks for. They want to be able to work 30 years, retire, and then get a check for the rest of their life. That is over. That's even over what most police officers don't even depend on pensions. United States postal workers don't even depend on pensions. Pensions is over. Then that means that you robbing Peter to pay Paul, and the people that come in after you are then going to have to work their butts off in order to ensure that you got a comfortable retirement. It's over. It's over. You can forget it. Throw that away. I don't know if they just put that on there as a bargaining chip, but returning a pension in a shorter work week, both of those things is out the door for me. Both of those things is completely out the door. You can forget it. Ain't nobody giving out no pension no more. You ain't part of the military. It's crazy.
Because one of the most important things in my responsibility that I take very seriously, is we have to make sure the company's going to succeed for the next 115 years.
Yeah.
And that means we need to invest in the products you see around me. If we don't invest in new products and have products customers want to buy, that impacts the number of vehicles we build, which directly impacts how many people are part of our manufacturing team. So we need to be able to keep investing in new products. And right now we're at a peak because we're investing not only in next generation internal combustion engine vehicles to make sure the customer demand is still there, along with improving fuel efficiency, but also in brand new EVs. So this is a critical juncture where
So what a lot of people don't understand, and I wish I could educate my fellow UAW members. I used to be a part of Local 600 over there in Dearborn, Michigan. What a lot of people don't understand is that when they say, yeah, we're making record profits, the company is making record profits, we want to share in those profits. Let me tell you what is really happening, okay? they're leveraging the amount of money that they're making, and they had to get rid of cars because they weren't even profitable in the U.S. anymore. They're leveraging the amount of money that they're making in order to invest in a technology that's not even profitable for them right now. So when you see a lot of these automakers outside of Tesla that are American automakers, and even over in Volkswagen, they're not making money on EVs right now. They're losing money on every single EV until they can drive the cost by continuing to ramp up production and then research and development in order to make sure that they can get it at a price point that's both consumable for the consumer and that the company can make a profit. You'd be lucky in the auto industry in order to get a 10% margin. What is a 10% margin? That means that if you sell a car for $100,000, you'd be lucky to make $10,000 off of it in order to be able to substantiate all of the costs that go into it. Manufacturing vehicles, shipping, workers, CEOs, pay, so on and so forth, right? Most automakers make less than a 10% margin on the product that they sell, and that's why they have to scale so much. That's why they have to sell so many of them. That's why they have to manufacture them for as long as they do before they start to put research and development in order to redo the next product, because they have to then use the money that they're making right now in order to invest over into EVs, which is not even profitable until they can drive the cost out, okay? So my point is, if you look at Tesla's early development, somebody said it right now, all throughout the first 10, 15 years of the company, they weren't making money. Their stock price was largely based off of, or how the company was priced was based off of what their potential profits would be, and the fact that they looked at themselves as a technology company. There was building infrastructure. We still got to build infrastructure for all of these EVs that are coming online. That's why you got GM, Honda, Toyota. They all partnering in order to try to build more infrastructure, and they're trying to leverage Biden's infrastructure plan in order to get money to do the things that Tesla has already done. They're behind the wall. So when you understand the business aspect of why companies, shout out to you, I'm going to be reading those super chats shortly. When you understand the business concept of why automakers are doing what they're doing, or why they're making so much profit, or why they're now allocating so much money over into what's still a losing proposition as far as how many EVs that they're selling, and they're trying to scale it up. They have to do advertising, marketing, so on and so forth. What happens is, because these workers don't understand that, they don't even really understand that they're cutting off their own hand when they saying we want to share in the profits. What you're basically saying is you don't want a job in the future. You want to mortgage your future in order to make sure that you feel good right now. Again, get your bag, but also understand the business concepts behind why they're offering you what they're offering you, and how much belt tightening that they're going to have to do in order to ensure that they have future product and ensure that the company continues to be profitable long after you're retired. Pensions, out the door. 32-hour work week? No. Can you get a raise? Absolutely. Will that be passed over into the consumer in order to pay for your raise? 100%. Most cars are going to be, on average, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in order to be able to get you your raise. I'm trying to help you to understand the auto industry. I want you to understand the business behind it. Less than 10% margin. How does Anton then make the decision of what he going to invest in? I fully understand every aspect of the business. I understand leadership. I understand suppliers. I understand the logistics. I understand the margins. I understand whether or not they issue a dividend or they reinvest into the country or in the company. I understand EVs. I understand internal combustion engines. I understand the consumers. I understand what affordability. I understand the loans of what they issuing, of how many loans that they're issuing as subprime versus prime loans. I understand the interest rates. I understand whether or not each arm of each company is actually owned by the company itself. When you look at GMAC, when you look at Ford Credit, when you look at Toyota, when you look at the business concepts of how Tesla does their thing, of whether or not they're actually leasing out the car to where you can buy it after you do it, right? What is the come on, man. It's too much information. Y'all are making informed or uninformed decisions based off of a limited amount of information that's being advertised for you in order to push an agenda, not necessarily the thing that's best for you. When you look to invest in a company, join the Patreon. I dropped a video, a basic video, and I'm going to do a deeper dive on a future video that I'm working on. I did a video inside of the Patreon of the 8 things that I look for when I'm looking to invest in a company, right? And don't look at it as a stock market. Look at it as a company that you otherwise wouldn't have had access to if it was not privately owned, but it's a publicly owned company, which means that you have all of the information, the data, and then you have to deep dive a little bit further in order to understand whether or not it's best for you for the next 10 to 15 years to invest in it. This strike is one of the factors that I take into consideration of whether or not I want to invest in a United States automaker. How will this contract then affect their unionization efforts to the foreign automakers that's down south? There's UAW is still trying to get into those plants. They have been for decades. Unsuccessfully, might I add, but they have been for decades, right? It's so many different things that factor into the profitability of a company, and y'all don't remember what took them down in the first place. Pensions, overburden, healthcare, producing products that wasn't profitable, right? That's why they introduced clunkers for cars back when Obama was in office in order to incentivize you to buy things. And then Obama would continue basically to issue grants over to the automakers. They was giving federal money over to the automakers, which was one of the reasons why our debt is so out of control, right? Tell your people to come look at this video. Tell your people to subscribe to the Millionaire Morning Show. I'm going to teach you. Ain't nobody giving you this type of game. They can't break it down like this because they don't know. Very few people can get on a live stream, live, in real time, talking to you, responding to the chat as it comes up, and giving you the game in real time, not no prepared notes, not none of that stuff. Very few people can talk off the top of their head because they don't understand how money works. They don't understand business. They've never been in a C-suite. They don't understand it from the banking perspective. They don't understand the financing perspective. They don't understand the production perspective. They don't understand the research and development perspective. Very few people can give you this type of game and this type of information right off the top of their head, without even thinking about it, because I do the work. This is what I do every single day. I know money. I know manufacturing. I know the companies that I'm investing in. I know technology. I know the fight that they having with Android, and I know the fight that they having with Apple in order to keep proprietary software out of their cars in order to be able to source the data to make more money long term. Very few people can give you this level of game. They can't teach you this. Your friends over there with the PhDs, I ain't gonna say no name, they got the PhDs in economics and finance. They can't hold the candle to me. They don't want to be on the live stream with me. You know why they don't want to be on the live stream with me? Because I will wipe the floor with my community college education. I will mop the floor with everything that they ever thought that they knew from a financial perspective. Tell them to come on a live stream with me and talk money, finances, autos, stocks, IPOs, real estate. We can break it down all across the board. None of them can mess with this C student education that I got. You know why? Because they don't live it. They just talk about what they read from somebody that's putting propaganda in front of them, and then they just reading off of a teleprompter in order to try to give you information. They can't talk this talk. They can't educate you as to why you need to ask your union leaders for more information based off of the 1,000 things that they ask and what's going to apply to your plant specific. They can't talk this talk. They don't know this game because they ain't never lived it. They ain't never built a business in real life from scratch. They don't know where all of the materials come from. Very few people can stand in front of me and say that they can really live to tell the story and they didn't get some scars as a result of it. Very few people can stand in front of me and say that they walked away unscathed. Where they at? Go find them. Find them and tell them to stand in front of me and be able to talk this talk. Find them and tell them to be able to stand in front of me and talk this talk. They can't tell you this. They can't stand in front of me and talk this talk. Very few people can stand in front of me and talk this. I'm sorry. You know me. I'll be getting in my bag real quick and I'll be having to big myself up. I ain't waiting for you to do it. They be giving you this basic information that you can go, man, stop it. Stop it.
Investing is very important.
One of your competitors said the deal that the UAW wants would push them into bankruptcy. Can GM be successful if you met all their demands?
Actually, no. The demands, which has been said, and we said for the life of the contract, the initial demands were over $100 billion. We still have a ways to go with the offer they put on the table last night.
Mary, real quick, the UAW has made a big play about CEO pay. You're very well compensated, reportedly nearly $30 million. If GM can afford to pay you, and that's your total compensation, why not pay the auto workers that 40% raise and just get this done?
Well, when you talk about executive comp, for instance, my comp, over 92% of the compensation.
I guarantee you she's going to say the majority of her compensation is tied to some form of tied to the performance of the company. It's in equity. Her base pay is literally in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then a lot of it is tied to bonuses and then compensation long term. So most executive compensation, and I'm going to drop the link at the end of the show. We're going to have this conversation. Most executive compensation cannot be and will not be sold. And so you're long going to be tied to the health of the company after you retire or after you're removed from your position. Your executive compensation is based off of the shares that vest over a longer period of time. But let me go ahead and see what she got.
Is performance linked. In addition to the 20% increases in salaries that we have on the table right now, our employees have been enjoying profit sharing for several years, and through the last few years, it's been record profit sharing. And so the way that General Motors is set up is that when the company does well, everyone does well.
Mary Barra, thank you so much. I got to send it back to New York.
So, auto workers are striking, just as predicted, and we're going to see what happens. I think that this is going to go a little bit longer. This is going to go a little bit longer than we anticipate as far as this strike.